Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the UDS protocol. So anybody knows what is UDS protocol?
Unified diagnostics.
Uh-huh. I didn't ask for the full form. I asked, like, do you know
Uh,
what does it mean?
if anything happened, I mean, wrong with an system, okay,
Uh-huh.
um, we use the UDS, okay.
What is that?
Sorry.
What is that UDS meaning? How we use the UDS?
If anything goes wrong with EC, I mean, like ECU system, okay,
Mm-hmm.
it will detect, okay, and we will diagnose that errors.
Yeah, how do you diagnose that errors?
That's thing I don't know how to do that one.
Okay. Okay, it's recording, right? Okay, so I can say 15 out of 55. So that's the good number. I hope so. Okay, so the first of all, what you said is completely correct. The diagnostic, like UDS, is nothing but a unified diagnostics. As the name suggests, it's a checking. Nothing but diagnosis means what? What we do, diagnosis means in the normal language.
Treating.
Okay, so it is kind of a like, the check what is exactly wrong. So when you say a diagnosis or liver diagnosis or intestine diagnosis, whatever heart diagnosis, nothing but they will be checking what is wrong with your part. So similarly here also, by using that, nothing but you are diagnosing an ECU by using the UDS, which is a unified diagnostics. So first of all, before entering into the deep of the UDS, so what is the difference between the CAN and UDS? So like, can you guys tell me any idea you guys have what is the difference between the CAN protocol and UDS protocol? So the first of all, these two protocols are both are different. These are the two different protocols. These are all not same. These are the two different protocols.
CAN is for data transfer protocols, and UDS is for diagnostics.
Data transfer, okay. It is for the diagnostics, okay. So when you say
Yeah,
diagnostic,
communication. CAN is for communication between the issues.
okay, very good. So why it is for the UDS protocol?
It is like diagnosing the issues.
Yeah, diagnosing is used like how? Diagnosis is like you are saying you are diagnosing an issue. Like how are you doing it? It's again, it's everything. Whenever you are doing some tools or electronic devices, you are not gonna simply, open it and do it something like right? You are going to diagnose it means what does it mean? Again, it's a data transfer itself.
Yeah, but following some different kind of protocols.
Which type of protocols? Okay. So the first of all, what you said on CAN, it is properly perfect because the CAN is a communication between the one ECU to another ECU. It's like whatever, how many ECUs do you have in the CAN network? So the communication, like the CAN protocol creates the communication between the one ECU to another ECU. Then why exactly we have the UDS protocol? So as you said, it is for the diagnostics purpose, but what does it mean by the diagnostic purpose when you are doing like, you said this is like, CAN is for the data transfer between the ECUs. Then what is exactly transferring when you diagnose an ECU? It is again, it's the data transmission only. But where is the difference? Here in the CAN, you will transmit the data between the ECU to ECU, but in the UDS, one ECU will be diagnosed by the UDS tool, where It is the communication between the one ECU to the tool, not with the ECU to ECU. To communicate between the ECU to ECU, you have the communication protocol, which is a CAN protocol, CAN FD protocol, LIN protocol, many more protocol. So, but UDS is to diagnose the ECU or to validate the one particular ECU. So, the UDS is communication between the ECU to tool. There will be a one tool which they will use it and they will validate or you diagnose the particular ECUs. When they diagnose, how exactly they are diagnosed by using this tool? We have certain services for the to get the data from nothing but validation, to get the data from the ECU, to write the memory, to read the memory, to read the faults, to write the to erase the memory, so flash the ECU. For all these purpose to do by the serviceman, we have the services. So when we say the CAN protocol, it is like you do not have any control over in practically for the CAN protocol, because once you develop, once you test, once it is fixed inside the car, you cannot change it. The it is like a CAN communication where it is communicating between the ECUs to ECUs. But when the UDS comes to the picture, it comes to the picture when your car, well, like when you say you are taking your car to the service station. So how exactly what they do, the serviceman, what exactly he does? If you will take, okay, my car is not my what do you say, my steering is not working fine, something is wrong with my steering, or something wrong with my brake, something wrong with my gate, something wrong with your AC, whatever whatever the issue with your car, you will take to the service station. So what exactly they does? However, they cannot remove the every part and check what is wrong. Correct, right? It is not required also. So what they do, that is where the UDS comes to picture. So as a tester or a developer, what you are doing here, when you say, like when you assigned with the UDS protocol, it is a feature which will be used to validate the every ECU in the car once after the production, once the car is on the field. So if you are not testing or developing this properly, then what will be wrong? As a serviceman, he cannot understand what exactly wrong with the ECU. Okay, so only the serviceman can understand only the data from what he receives as per the services. So now understood what is the difference between the CAN and UDS? Hello?
Yeah, yeah, understood.
Okay. So let's enter in depth of UDS now. So the UDS uses are, one is the complete validation of this, like when they say the validation, by using the UDS, you can check what exactly wrong with the ECU. Nothing but if any failures occurs, what are the failures has been occurred in the system. So it will be used to verify it. The second one is you can read or write the memories. Okay, so that you don't have to open your IDE and check everywhere every time. It's not required. And connect the debugger, make the establish the communication between your ECU to the IDE. It's not at all required. So for like it's the UDS is came into the picture because to what exactly how all these are doing for the end user, nothing but what exactly is happening by using the UDS? Friendly, user friendly, right? So you don't have to do, it's like a kind of um, reducing the rework. Okay, so once you're done with your work, so you cannot do the every steps again from the scratch if something is wrong. Correct, right? That is the reason we have the UDS, where it can avoid the so much of work, where it can avoid the so much of work, where it will create the user friendly for everyone, including for the testers, including for the end user, including for the serviceman. So that is where UDS comes into the picture. If someone is going to develop the UDS or test the UDS, Please test it properly or develop it properly. Clear? Because this is what we are going to use once once your ECU or a system is developed and tested and properly certified. It is a, it is ready to produce, nothing but manufacture. That time not one or two ECUs will not be manufacturing. They will manufacture nearly 1 million at a time. Okay, so and then they will update in the car. So once the car is on the road, what is actually required? If something is wrong, to identify the complete, it depends on the UDS. Otherwise they have to remove your, the like parts, where exactly the complete everything wire. I mean, it is not, it's not so easy. The two wires in the can, you will not be visible only. Where you can see the engine ECU, if you open the I mean, I'm not getting the name. So where you can see in the 2 to 3 ECUs only, the can low and can wire will be somewhere, mixed with some hundreds of wires, where you will not even understand which one is for what. Not you, at least, So this is, it's gonna take time for them also, and it is like, it is not user friendly. That is the reason. Do you really wait in the service station by giving your car for like in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month? No, right? Everybody needs everything to be happen quick. Everybody needs everything to be like, less time consuming. That is the reason we have come, like, customer came up with the UDS. And again, it is a standard. There are some specific standard where the automotive company has to follow those standards. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So while if it is clear, then let's get into the UDS services. So the UDS, first of all, it is all about the services. You have services for each action to perform or to get something or to do something with the ECU. You can do only with the services, not with anything else. Okay, so this is what is the complete UDS. Whatever you are diagnosing, validating, writing, reading, checking, whatever you do, you are doing all with the services. Okay, so there are nearly 25 to 30 services, but in the IT company, like automotive company, we will not be using every services. Based on the project, we will be using the services. Nothing but what is exactly required for that particular product. So based on that, they will use the services. In these services, there are few services which are like, like mandatorily or by default they will use in the project. So that those type of the services which we are going to discuss on UDS protocol, not complete 25 to 30 protocol, sorry, services. We will be discussing around 10 to 15 uh, services. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first service is the first service is service 10. So any idea? Anybody knows what is service 10 meaning?
No.
Okay. So service 10 meaning, is it
Huh?
session? Yes.
Session control.
Yeah, session control. So do you know more about this? Who is exactly answering?
Extended.
Vidya,
Together.
Vidyadhar.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Vidyadhar. So do you know anything about the session control?
There are three more sessions is there. Default, extended,
Uh-huh.
and programming.
Okay, very good. So is it already thought or how is it?
Am I correct, ma'am?
Yes, yes, you are right. So I asked, is anybody already discussed UDS or how is it? Is this the first time or have you already discussed UDS with someone?
I have seen some videos in the YouTube, so that's why.
Uh-huh. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, so in the service 10, it is called a session session control. In the session control, before getting inside the session control, since I already told it is a standard, so how we have seen the frame structure in the CAN, similarly it is also fixed in the UDS since it is a standard. So where the government has provided that the frame structure should be in this manner even for the UDS. Okay, so for the UDS, the like let me open the PPT. Huh. This is how the request looks like, where you are first checking the frame type or the nothing but a message length and then the service ID and then the sub function and then the data. So first let me go to the here. The first of all, what it will be having in the CAN, how what we have seen, like how you see the frame. We have seen one of the example, no? We have seen one of the requirement specification. What you have seen on that first?
Data frame.
Data frame. Like that is data frame. I'm asking in that data frame, what like how the frame was.
Sort
It
of
was
frame.
starting start of the frame, right? Like in practically I have show like start of the frame you cannot see it. It's on the physical layer. I showed what and all you can see it on the application layer. Correct, right? As a developer, as a tester, you that is what you will be seeing, not from the start of the frame. That is, I have explained completely because you should aware of that. With what you guys have seen in when I show the requirement spec,
Like signal name.
signal name, very good, but signal name is, it will not be hard coded in the software. What exactly will be present?
Identifier.
Very good. It starts with the identifier, what you can see on the application layer. Correct, right? Identifier. And then the like DLC and then the data, actual data, which is present on the data field. Similarly, in the UDS, it will be having a ID, identifier, nothing but why we have the identifier here? You are validating one ECU by using one of the tool. So what exactly you are doing here in this identifier? You have to provide, there will be a like, you have to give the ID for this tool. Then only the ECU will understand whether it has to response for the request whatever you are asking by the this tool. If it the acceptance criteria which I have showed you, right? Acceptance criteria. If the ID of this tool is present in the acceptance criteria of this ECU, then only ECU will respond back to this tool request. Otherwise, it will not respond. So, however, ECU cannot simply, this tool cannot say that, hi, ECU A, I want to validate you. No. So how the communication will be? It's all about digital. Correct, right? So how the ECU identify that, okay, this is the UDS tool, I need to answer him. And this is the like this is the tool which will be requesting the ECU to validate. So that is all happens like in the name of identifier. There will be a ID for the tool which will be configured inside the ECU so that ECU understand I have to respond for this particular ID. Otherwise, it will not respond if you request in some other ID because it is not configured in the acceptance criteria of ECU. Okay, clear? Hello.
Yes, clear.
Okay, so if the ID, assume the ID is 143. Again, it is same as scan where you have the two types of IDs. One is 11-bit identifier, another one is 29-bit identifier. Okay, so let me take an example of 11-bit identifier. So if it is a 11-bit identifier, so like assume 173 is present. In this is the nothing but destination, or I can say the ECU ID. nothing but ECU number. So where whenever you are providing the identifier with the 11-bit identifier 173, this 73 meaning, so the by using this UDS tool, like there will be a multiple ECUs in connected to the bus, right? You are going to validate one ECU at a time. Correct, right? Not the multiple ECUs. So that time you have to say that I have to get into this ECU. Correct, right? So that is the purpose. It is the like this identify to tell the destination identifier ID. So where you will be mentioning, and this is the prioritization. So if this ID is mentioned 173, then so UDS is pointing to this particular ECU. And what happens, this identify this is the request identifier from the tool. This is the request identifier from the tool. So once it goes to the ECU, and ECU will respond back to you, will respond back to with the response. So how it will respond? Again with the identifier and then the data. So this identifier will be how? So it has to respond back to the this tool only, right? Not for someone else. That is the reason it will be respond back to you with the this ID. Nothing but if it is responding back to you, nothing but 173 ID. 75 is the source. This ID, tool ID. Okay, this is all about the identifier in the 11-bit identifier. If you are using the 11-bit identifier in the UDS. Okay, so assume if you are configured with the 29-bit identifier in the UDS. For example, of 14 DA 59 F1. In this, what is like, how is it configured? In the sense, if your tool is configured with the 29-bit of identifier, F1 is the source ID. What does it mean, the source ID? It's the tool ID from where you are requesting. 59 is the destination. Nothing but you are mentioning which ECU you want to validate it. And then 14 DA is the it's like a kind of prioritization and all other it is typically depend on the how the project requirement. It's all about how they want to use the particular bit. So you can as of now consider it as a priority. This is you should be aware, because if you are working on this, you should know what is this and what is this, why are you sending that. So in the 29-bit source and the destination, in the 11-bit identifier, you will be having only the which one you are going to validate it. This is how the frame starts with the UDS. It starts with the identifier. So once after the identifier, so you will be having a DLC. So what is DLC? As we have discussed in the CAN.
It's data length code.
Uh-huh. I mean, whenever I ask what is this, I'm not expecting the full form.
Total bytes. How many bits
So
we have to transfer?
very good. Nothing but once after the identifier, there will be a DLC. Nothing but in one particular frame, how many bytes of data either you are requesting, or you are if you are getting from the ECU, so ECU will be mentioning the DLC, how many bytes of data I am sending as a ECU. If you are a source, nothing but a client or a tool, diagnostic tool, you will be mentioning how many bytes of data I am sending in one frame. That number count you will be mentioning in DLC. This we will see in depth whenever we write the request and responses. But as of now, as whatever you are aware of what is exactly mean by DLC, it's correct. Okay. After the DLC, the next byte will be service. As we already got to know, UDS is all about service. UDS protocol is all about service. Without service, UDS is nothing. You cannot work on UDS without a service. Okay. After that, sub function. So in the services itself, we have the sub functions. By using the sub function, we can perform some of the actions, or we can control over some of the actions, which some of the functionalities which is inside the software. That is called a sub function. Okay. And then data. Data is actual data, as we already know. So let's get into the practical example of UDS now. So identifier, I'll take it as X1. So I will not be using identifier much because in the UDS identifier is fixed. Not like, the CAN identifiers. CAN identifiers depends on the number of frames or number of inputs you will be giving to the ECU and number of outputs you will be getting from the ECU. So it depends on the IDs will be depending on the inputs and outputs, because if you are having a too many outputs, you will be having a too many frames. Nothing but every frame will be different, every frame with a different IDs. IDs will be keeps on varying. Okay, nothing but, I mean, when I say keeps on varying, not like, if the frame starts with the 14145, which provides the wheel speed, data, this will be always 145 only. This never changes. But assume there is another frame which provides what is the power mode. This output frame will be having a different identifier like 146. Like this, there will be a multiple inputs and outputs from the ECUs. That's the reason you will be having a multiple IDs. But in UDS, that is not the case. UDS is just a one tool where it has one of the ID. And ECU, whenever it is responding, it has to make sure that it has to respond for this particular tool. That is the reason there will be only one request ID, and whenever EC is responding, that response ID. That's it. Okay. So now let's write one of the example. So now identifier, one is the request identifier. So we have seen one of the service which is 10, which is a session control. Okay, this is the service, remember. Okay, so once after the request identifier, like it is fixed for the UDS. As of now, I'll write DLC because you guys have to tell me what is the DLC in the UDS. Once after I wrote the complete request form. So then what is the next? What's next?
Service. Service.
Service ID.
Yeah. Okay, correct. Service. It is 10. What is the service here?
Session control.
Very good. It's a 10. Give me one second. Sorry. So after the service, what I told you?
Subfunction.
Subfunction.
Very good. When it comes to the subfunction, especially for the service 10, which is a session control, we have the three types of subfunction. One is 0, another one is 0, 1, nothing but 1, another one is 2, which is 2. Nothing but 0, 0 is for the default session, 0, 1 is for the, 0, 3. One second, guys. I'm unable to erase here. Okay. One is 0, 1, 0, 2 and 0, 3. There will be a like 0, 4 and so on, but it is not supportable. Usually in the project, it will be supportable only the 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 3. 0, 1 meaning default session. 0, 2 meaning programming session. 0, 3 meaning extended session. Or you can say application. When I say application and extended session, both are same. And when I say programming session or bootloader, both are same. Okay, so let's see what is this subfunction meaning, why exactly we have default session, bootloader and application. Okay, so now as we got to know, we have discussed three subfunctions, correct, right? So now tell me the request for 0, 0, 1. So first is identifier, request identifier, and then the DLC, and then the service, and then I want to enter into the default session. Which is the subfunction to enter into the default session?
0, 1.
0 1. So now tell me what is the DLC? Sorry? I'm unable to hear you.
3, ma'am.
3? Is it 3? Do we consider identifier as a data? Did we consider identifier as a data in the CAN? When I say one frame, you can send only 8 bytes of data. Did we consider the identifier?
Yes, we can.
No. In the CAN also we didn't consider. When you see the KNOE, you might have I have showed the DLC and then like identifier and then the DLC and the data. In the PPT also it is present. That particular data field, there only you can send the 8 bytes of data. From the DLC, it is 8 bytes of data in a single frame. It is excluded by the identifier, not including the identifier. Okay, not even in the KNOE, like nor in the KNOE, neither in the UDS. So you should not consider request identifier as a data. Okay, so here DLC is only 02. So now considering this in this particular frame, how many bytes of data you're like, okay, let me put it in this way now. In single frame, everywhere you can send only 8 bytes of data. So now tell me, like how many bytes of data here it has?
16.
16 bytes. Do you see 16 bytes here? It's only 3 bytes of data, right? This is the 1 byte, 2 byte, 3 byte. That's it. As I already told you, if you're not considering this for the DLC, then of course it is not considered as a like in the data in the frame also. Identifier is, it should be there. Without identifier, you will not get to know what is that meaning itself. That is the reason we have the identifier, but it is not included in the as a data in the frame. Okay, the data which will be considered as a frame is DLC 1001 and it is only 3 bytes of data. As we know, the frame can contain 8 bytes of data. The remaining bytes of data will be filled with the 00s or 55s or FFs based on the your project. It could be 00, it could be 55, it could be FFs. Okay, this is unused bytes of data will be filled with the some values with as per the project or as per the client request. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's see what is 01, 02, 03. Then we will go for the response. This is the request which you have sent by the diagnostic tool. What you are trying to understand from like what the tool wants to understand here, as a serviceman you are handling this diagnostic tool now. So what he wants from the ECU, he wants to enter this particular ECU to the default session. So what exactly he is trying to get in the from the default session. So what exactly meaning by default session now? Okay, what is this? Okay, the default session meaning as the name suggests, it's a default, nothing but. So once after you ignition on, nothing but when I say ignition on, it's kind of like when you turn on your car. Okay, when you turn on your car, by default ECU will be in the default session. So what exactly is happening in the default session? Let me give an example so that you will understand. Where is my okay. So what is happening or what will happen in the default session? So let's say the main functionality of the brake system. What could be the main functionality of the brake ECU?
To brake, apply the brakes.
Yes. It has to apply the brake when it is required. Correct, right? This is the main functionality. So if it is the main functionality, it requires a multiple inputs, right? It is not only like simply it is going to apply the brake. The action which needs to be taken care by this particular ECU which is applying the brake. To apply the brake, it requires a multiple inputs from the many other ECUs inside the car. Correct, right?
Yeah.
So if it is taking the input from the multiple ECUs inside the car, once it is taken, it has to perform some calculations. I can say, or it will be using some of the algorithm. Okay, so here the main functionality is applying of the brake. To do that, it requires some of the calculations, inputs, algorithms, everything. It simply will not enter into the main uh, destination where it has to apply the brake. Correct, no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So what is happening in the default session? If you are in the default session, you will not be having the access for the main functionality where it does the applying of the brake, which is the ECU is meant to apply the brake. That is the main functionality for that. So it will not be working on this nothing, but you will not be having a control over the main functionality in the default session. Okay, then where we have, you will get this complete authority or controllability only in the application, which is also called extended session. Okay, so then what we have in the default session? In the default session, it will be doing the checking of the basic stuffs to understand all the basics is proper, and you will not be having the control over the main functionality. Okay, so that is the reason. Oh, guys, 1 second. 2 minutes, I'll call you. I'm in class. Okay. Where I was? Yeah. So in the default session, as I said, you will not be having the control over the main functionality. You will have the control over the main functionality, or you can, validate or change the main functionality only when you enter into the extended session or the default session, not on the extended session or application, not on the default session. Default session is to check the basic inputs which is required for the main functionality. Okay. Then what is programming session? Why do we have the programming session? Any idea why do we have the programming session?
To perform the program.
To perform the program. Perform the program meaning?
Exactly.
To give any inputs.
Sorry?
To give any new inputs.
To give any new inputs. Okay. Then any other answers?
To flash the software in
Okay. Flash the software. Then any other answers?
security reason also.
Sorry?
Security reason also.
Which reason?
Purpose.
No, your voice is half breaking. I cannot hear you in the starting. I can hear you at the end.
Because of the security purpose.
Security purpose. Okay. Then any other answer? Security of?
Operating systems and applications.
Very good. Operating system and okay,
Business purpose.
application. Then any other answers? Okay. So the first of all, in the programming session, before entering into the deeply in programming session, as we know, we have a different hardware components which will be integrated with your microcontroller. Correct, right? Like kind of external watchdog, external oscillator, or like many more. You could have used external CAN transceiver, external CAN controller, like So you will be using a many more external hardware components along with your microcontroller, which will become the complete ECU for your project. Correct, right?
Yes.
So now there should be somewhere in your code you have to verify all whatever the hardware components you have integrated with your microcontroller, it is working or not working, or any issue with the other hardware components. Does it require anything or it does not require anything, or any hardware issues, or it is working fine? So how do you get to know all these things when you are completely, when the ECU when you have tested the complete software and you have developed the complete software, and once the ECU inside the car, it's even the ECU integrated in the car, however you cannot open and just to change one of the particular, just to change one of the one small chip, you cannot open your complete car. Correct, right?
Yeah.
So how exactly you will make sure that all the hardware components, whatever you have connected with your microcontroller, it is working fine before you trying to perform the main functionality. Of course, if you are simply not checking all these things and then if you are directly entering into the main functionality, do you really think it will provide, ECU microcontroller will provide the proper output? Nothing but it will apply the back really? No, right? We cannot expect my ECU to perform its action when there is a problem with the when there is a problem with his components. Nothing but like all these components are required to get the inputs for the microcontroller to perform this main action. Correct, right? Okay, so when you have this, so you should be able, like you anyway you cannot check it, so there should be a software code where it has to do all this checking, whatever the hardware components have been integrated with the microcontroller for your project. So that's where this programming comes into the picture, where it is a bootloader, also called bootloader. So whenever so as I said, so whenever there is a issue with the any hardware component, it will enter into the programming session or the bootloader, where you cannot perform the main functionality. Nothing but your ECU will not at all provide the output frames when it is in the bootloader, because this bootloader is all about the basic check of every hardware component in your ECU, and also the memory check. So the first of all, memory is the main thing to perform any of the system. Correct, right? Without a memory, we cannot have any system. So to do something, it has to get stored in this memory and it will reflect in the form of action. Correct, right? Okay, so how, like we should make sure that all the memory is working fine, all the hardware components are working fine. That is where the bootloader comes into picture, where it makes sure by doing the self checking, and otherwise it can do the some of the basic checks of the every hardware, and it makes sure that every hardware components which are integrated with the ECU is working fine, and my microcontroller can receive the output from input from all other hardware components. But at the same time, as I told you, it is not the, it will, bootloader is not for the main functionality, so you will not receive any frames when you are in bootloader. Remember this. Okay, so it is also useful to check the complete memory, because memory is the heart of whatever you perform in the electronic devices. Memory is must. Without memory you cannot do anything. Okay, so there will be a memory check completely on microcontroller, whatever the memory, RAM, ROM, EEPROM, whatever you have, every memory checking will be done. So this is the one of the use of bootloader or the programming session. And what next? By using this, we can flash the software. So flashing means what exactly we are flashing to the software. So why exactly we have to enter into the bootloader while flashing? So what, anybody can try, like anybody help me to explain the flashing, what exactly flashing meaning? What did you understand? from the YouTube or anywhere? Sorry, I didn't hear.
Adding software to hardware.
Software to hardware. Okay. Any other answer? Okay, so just to tell you guys, flashing cannot be done by the UDS. Reflashing can be done by the UDS. Remember this. Every time if your ECU does not having anything inside that, then it is not possible to flash just by UDS, because ECU will not at all, as I already told you, each ECU should be configured with the ID of the tool, then only ECU will support. Correct, right? So how do you how the ECU will be configured with that tool even if the ECU itself is not having that software? It is all about the software which will decide whether I need to respond for the diagnostic tool request or not. So flashing meaning it is for the first time when you are flashing. So if the ECU have the hard software already into that, and then you want to update that software. For example, easy example I will give you, in your mobile, every time you get the system update, download this version and restart your phone. You will be having with the new software and with the some little bit colorful in the applications or whatever. Correct, right? What is it meaning? Have you guys seen it in your mobile? You will get always install the new version of software.
Update.
Yes, update of what?
State of software.
Yes, your mobile will be having a software already, but what they are updating? The features inside the software. Okay, if they want to completely, that is where the bootloader comes. If your ECU does not have the bootloader, then of course you cannot flash through OTA, nothing but over the air, or you cannot flash through UDS. No, you cannot do all these things. First, you have to flash by using the debugger itself. Okay, so once your ECU contains the primary software, which is a bootloader. Even though in your mobile you can see, when you install, it will be, it will not allow you to do anything in your phone. The something will be running. So when it is running, it will say booting, booting, booting. Nothing but it is reflashing the secondary bootloader. Anyway, we are not entering more into the bootloader. So first of all, whatever you are doing by using the UDS, when you say flashing, no, you have to say reflashing. You can do only reflashing, not the initial flashing. While talking, you may say in the job, okay, I'm flashing the software to the hardware, fine. But when you say that, you meant the reflashing, because you cannot do the initial flashing to the ECU by using the UDS. And when we say flashing, as you said, it is deploying the hardware software into the hardware. It is totally fine. That is the first flashing, like first time if you're flashing, that is what you are doing. If you are reflashing, meaning what? You are erasing the memory and you are updating the same memory where the previous software was present. You are reflashing the new software in the same memory. That is what is reflashing. Clear? Okay. So why exactly we have to enter into the programming session when you are doing the flashing or reflashing? Why? Any idea? Just assume your phone. Your phone is one of the embedded system.
For
Embedded system.
reflashing purpose.
To work properly and more efficient.
Uh-huh. Any other answer? Okay, so the first of all, there will be a layers in the software also. If you are a developer or tester, whatever you be, there will be a something called a layers. Okay, so the first thing is you cannot mix every software, every software code. There is a separate layer for everything. Otherwise, what will happen? If you change something in this code, if you are mixing everything, then it may affect some other code which you never expected. Okay, that is the reason we have the layers, where if you change something in this layer which will not affect anything on the basic layer, which suppose it should not be done, otherwise the complete embedded system itself is gone. Okay, so the main, as I was telling, what you cannot find what in the default session, you cannot find the main functionality features, nothing but an algorithms which are required to perform the main functionality. You cannot find it. Why? Because it's like, making sure that uh, so to do something else, as a developer or a tester, you are not doing something else to do some something, what I can say, you are told to do x1 and you are doing xx1. Okay, so otherwise, let's say in practically, your ECU is trying to get some of the input and to perform some of the calculation, and you are in the default session and you are trying to do the calculation. If you are able to access the main functionality in the default session, it, like, if the calculation due to some of the sequence error, or the software which is not executing in a sequence, this is also there. Like how you write the code, there will be a thousand lines of code. So, like, how do you think ECU has to execute the thousand lines of code? Do you think it can simply go somewhere in between the 500 line and it can execute? Does it do the like this?
No.
How the execution happens? First of all, tell me that how the software execution happens. You are going to be a
Layer,
developer.
yeah, layer by layer.
Let's take one
Count.
layer now. So in one layer, you have 5,000 lines of code. One line to 5,000. Now tell me how it is going to execute. How the
Uh,
software is going to run.
Step by step, it is.
Step by step, meaning line by line. Correct, right?
Yeah, right.
When we say line by line, it's not about, line by line. It's about the task. You will be creating a task, 1 millisecond task, 2 millisecond task, 3 millisecond task, 4 millisecond task, which will be done in the bootloader software. So once this is done, then only in 1 millisecond task, there are multiple, like 5 lakhs lines of code. It has to perform that line by line first. Then only it will goes to that second, so 2 millisecond task. This is called a sequence. Okay. Assume due to some issue or your code has entered into some infinite loop where it cannot come back. Okay, and it is stuck. Infinite loop, nothing but that only, right? Where it has stuck. So it cannot come back. Do you think this can happen when it is doing the main functionality? If it happens, what will be the output? Break, of course, will not be getting applied. Correct, right?
Yes.
Yes, that
Yes.
is the reason where we are making sure of all these things in the default session, and then we will perform the main actionality when it will give you the control of the main action, main action only when you enter into the application. And in the bootloader, what you are doing, it is used for the checking of all the hardware components what you have connected, and for the reflashing purpose. And when I say the reflashing purpose, the programming session, nothing but a bootloader, it is also used to identify whether the application is proper or not. Okay, there will be a separate application software when you develop, or for the testers also, you will get a separate application software, and bootloader separate software. In some of the project, they will merge all and then they will provide. In some of the project, you will receive separately. In some of the project, some of the companies, where if you are entering into the production companies, you don't have to do all these things as a tester. Everything is already automated. You just have to click on the one file, that's it. That time you will not be knowing any of these things. Okay. So this is all about the default session, programming session and application, nothing but extended session. Okay, so we got to know what are the session and why we have all those sessions and how the request will be to enter, like you are requesting the ECU to enter into the default session or the programming session or the extended session. So I hope you have understood why exactly we request the ECU to enter. Why we have these sessions. Whenever you want to whenever you want to get the control over the main functionality, you will enter the extended session where you want to check the output from the ECU. In the default session and in the programming session, first of all, you will not even get the output from the, when I say output, not the response. When I say output, is the output frames. Transmission frames you will not receive from the ECU. So now tell me the request to enter into the application first. Then I will go for the response. Tell me the request to enter into the application. Come on, guys.
First ID, RID.
Request ID,
DLC,
DLC.
Service.
service,
Uh, I'm not asking,
Service.
tell as a DLC or service. I need number. What is that service? What is this
10.
DLC?
10.
10,
1 0
10.
10.
Okay, 10.
0 1.
I asked for application, not for default.
03.
03. Then what is the DLC?
2.
Very
4
good.
5.
4, 5. Then it's a 2. How many bytes of data do you see? And we have already discussed request identifier is not the data. Okay. So next, as we have seen how the request should be as per the standard frame structure. Similarly, we have the frame structure even for the response. How the response should be. So it is also response identifier and then DLC and then service plus 40. Nothing but whatever the service could be. It could be 10 or any other service XX. It is always like XX plus 40 in the response. Okay, if it is a positive response, ECU there are two types of response. Is like if the ECU has accepted your request that you are telling him to enter into the extended session, if the ECU accepted your request, it will respond back to you with the positive response and take the action where it will enter into the application and it will give you the positive response stating I have entered into the application. Okay, and there is another type of response which is negative response where ECU tells I'm really sorry I couldn't process your request because of some of the reason. Okay, I couldn't enter into the application because of XX reason. That we will see later what are the negative responses. So now these two types like NRCs we will see later. So there are two types of response, positive and negative response. If it is a positive response, the service plus 40, whatever the service could be XS, it could be XS plus 40. So if it is XS plus 40, then it is considered as a positive response. And then the subfunction and then the data. So assume if it is a negative response. So response identifier same as the response identifier, request identifier will be always same. And then DLC. And then how do you identify it is a negative response? If the EC is responding negatively, it always in the place of service, it always has to respond with the 7F. If it is responding with the 7F, then it is considered as a negative response. If it is responding back to you with the service plus 40, then it is called a positive response. Okay. So if it is a negative response, 7F and the reason, that is called NRC. Negative response code. We do have a multiple negative response code in another word, it is also called a reason. Why? If something is negative, you should have a reason. Why are you late? Because of this reason. Correct, right? Similarly here also, if it is a negative response, why exactly I am unable to process your request? That we will get to know in the NRC, which is called negative response code. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I want you guys to tell me the positive response for the request what you guys have already told. 1003 where you have requested to enter into the application. Tell me the positive response. ECU has entered into the application. So how do you confirm if it is responding back to you with the positive? So now tell me the positive response. It's a DLC.
5003.
Very good. 5003. If it is if it is responding like this, you can identify it is a positive response. What is the DLC? If it is just only 5003,
It is also 2 bytes.
very good. Okay, so now you have understood the positive response. Now tell me the negative response. ECU could not enter process your request because of one uh, why reason.
7F reason.
7F.
Very good. Very good. So DLC would be
Same
and
2
also
bytes.
okay. After the reason, actually here I missed one. It has to have the service. 7F service and then reason. Okay, the DLC will be 3. 7F it is to show it is a negative response, and for which service? For the 10 service and then the reason. Okay, this is how the negative response looks like. Okay, so now let me go to the next one. So what happens when you request the 1002? You will get 5002 as you guys are already know. So now the point here is concentrate. This is because this is very much important. It could be 01 or 03. Nothing but it could be default session, application or programming session. It could be any request. Whenever you request, ECU responds whenever ECU is responding with the positive response, but it is going to, it has processed your request. Along with the 50, nothing but service plus 40, along with its subfunction, any one subfunction, it is going to respond with the one of the information, like one of the information which is okay, which is P2 timing and P2 start timing. P2 start timing. Meaning P2 timing in the sense it will be a 2 bytes of data. P2 start timing is also 2 bytes of data. So what exactly P2 timing parameter meaning? So assume this is you, nothing but client or your tool or you, whatever, everything is same when I say source. Okay, this is your server. Server meaning you are controlling what? ECU. So now if you have requested one of the requests to the ECU which is enter into the default session. So if you are requesting something, ECU has some, you can, once after you request, you can wait for some of the minimum timing. Correct, right? Everyone has their own limit. So like that, ECU can wait how, like, the ECU, once the source or the client or tool requested this request, where ECU is going to take some certain amount of time to say whether it's a positive response or a negative response. Nothing but it has to say something. It could be positive or it could be negative. But there should be a time limit, right? If you are, requesting something from someone, you cannot wait for 2 days or 3 days whether it is going to happen or not without even understanding. Everybody has their own limit. Similarly, even this tool as also has its own limit, where it is a standard limit. According to the standard, P2 timing is 50 millisecond. Nothing but either it could be positive response or negative response. ECU has to respond back to your request within 50 millisecond. It's a standard. It can use up to 50 millisecond, but in your project you can, as a developer, you will be fixing this timing as per the requirement. In some of the project you can configure 30 millisecond or 40 millisecond, depends on the request from the client as per your requirement. This 30 millisecond will be mentioned in these 2 bytes in the response of session control. So what is 30 millisecond in the hexa or 40 millisecond? Consider, if it is a 40 millisecond, it has to respond with the 28. Nothing but 2 bytes are fixed. Nothing but 0028. It has to respond with the 0028 after the 5003. And then we have seen, I have mentioned, we have something called P2 star timing parameter. So what is exactly P2 star timing parameter? Is everyone understood what is P2 timing parameter? Are any doubts in this? P2 is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if it is clear, I'm moving to P2 star. As we know, you will request from the tool to the ECU to enter into the default session. So ECU has to respond positively or negatively within the configure time based on the client request. It could be 40 millisecond or could be 50 millisecond, but as per the standard, this timing should be less than 50 millisecond. That 50 like whatever the you configure which is less than 50 millisecond will be present in the response of the session control. Okay. So now what is P2 start timing parameter? This is the first response. It could be positive or negative. So now P2 start timing parameter is if the ECU is responding negatively with the NRC code 78. So what is 78 meaning? It's a pending request, sorry, pending response. So what is pending response meaning? So pending response meaning I have seen your WhatsApp message, but I didn't reply to you yet. If you are getting the double click in the blue tick, nothing but I have seen it. Correct, right?
Yes.
Yes, similarly here also, if the ECU is responding with the NRC 28, it means the client or a tool or a tester as you are understanding, ECU has accepted your request. It is nothing but it is processing your request. But it requires some time to provide you the response, positive response. It requires some time to provide you the positive response. That is what is meaning 78 pending response. Okay, ECU has I'm repeating, whenever ECU is responding with the 78, meaning ECU has accepted and processing your request, but it requires some time to send you the positive response. That is the reason NRC 78 is called pending response. So when the ECU is responding with the negatively with this specifically with the NRC 78, this P2 star coming to picture. So where the client cannot wait long to get the positive response from the ECU, when it is already confirmed that I'm processing your request, just wait for some time to get the positive response. That timing is called P2 star timing, where ECU take to provide the positive response once after the NRC 78. That is as per the standard, it is 5 seconds. The P2 star timing parameter should be configured less than 5 seconds. You will be configuring as a developer based on your requirement. It could be 2 second or 1 second or any second less than 5. As per your requirement, you will configure as per your project. This will be converted into hexa and will be mentioned in the another 2 bytes of the positive response in the 50, which is a session control. Clear what is P2 and P2 star? Any doubts? Any doubts? Is it clear what is P2 and P2 star? Hello guys?
No.
No? Someone said no. Can you please ask what is not clear? Guys, I need an answer to, to continue. Hello, am I audible? Yes, I can see one hand. Santosh. What happens if we didn't get response within timing parameter? It's a bug. If you are not getting the response within P2 timing parameter, then it is a bug. You have to raise a bug. If you are a tester. If you are a developer, of course, that bug tester will be identifying that EC is not responding as per the P2 timing parameter. So he or she will be raising the bug and it will assign to you to update your code that you have not developed your code as per the requirement. Santosh, I want you to unmute and I want you to I want to understand what didn't you understand. If you raise the hand, I cannot understand anything. If you are not understand, I need to understand how much you have understood. So please unmute yourself. Hello? Guys, come on, please. Don't waste the time. Anyway, I will not repeat complete everything whatever I have explained. If you have not understood, I will get to know how much you have understood first. And I'll understand what you didn't understand so that I can teach only that much. Santosh, are you there? Okay, others? Is it clear or if you can post, if you have any questions, or please unmute yourself and say you didn't understand this part.
P, uh, actually, it is
Yes,
the
Pritham.
response time between the UDS
Hmm?
and ECU. That is what I understood.
It's your tool or you, nothing but.
Yeah,
When I say the tool, you are the one who test or you are the one who is going to request the ECU. Okay, in practically as a end user, the tool will be doing by the serviceman. Okay, so as a
yes.
developer,
So
are you
the
to?
P2 is the time
Uh-huh.
which in which like the ECU should respond to the serviceman or to the
Nothing but a
device.
request.
When the
Request.
serviceman makes a request,
Hmm.
the ECU should respond in
Within
P2 time. P2
within
time.
P2 time.
Yeah, yeah.
That P2 time, whatever as per the requirement you have configured, that will be comes in the 2 bytes of data in the session control response. If it is a 40 millisecond which you have configured in EXA, it is a 28. This is what you will get as a response in the whenever you enter into the session control.
This response is the code, right? Code or data.
It's a
What is
data which you will get from the ECU. If you request 1003, you will get 5003 0028. And what is 1 second in the hexa? 1 second meaning is 60.
what is that like 50? That is
3C.
a data.
It's a data. What else can you get from the ECU? It's a data. See what we have discussed. 10 meaning is what?
Session.
So if you are saying simply to the ECU, you cannot say session control enter into the extended session to the ECU, right? You have to say in the binary. So you cannot write everything in binary. Like if it is a 10 meaning, you have to write in a binary 0001 0000. It will be converted like this whenever it is going to the ECU. Or whenever you are getting 5003, you can understand hexa, but if you are trying to do it that time in the binary, it is going to take too much of time. That is the reason we have something called hexa number system. So when you are getting the response from the ECU as a 5003, in the application layer you will get like this, but from the out of the ECU you will be getting like this, which will be converted into hexa where we can understand easily. Getting the point? Yeah, in the CAN also we have seen it is a communication between the ECU to ECU. But here it is a communication between the ECU to you. Because you are the one who is validating this. And you should know what you want to validate in this ECU. So that is the reason we have services to do it. Without services, you cannot validate the ECU. So UDS is all about services. Out of like on that services, 10 is one of the service. And these are the sub functions. When you request ECU to enter into the one of the session, and I have already explained what are the sessions are available and which session is for what purpose. If you want to validate some of the one of the function whether ECU break is applying or not applying, that time you have to enter into the extended session. So you will enter into the extended session. So how will you get to know that ECU has entered into the extended session? Nothing but application. ECU has to send the positive response, and it is having a one standard structure where it has to respond in a standard manner where it will add the plus 40 and then it will give the response which is 50, and you asked for the application, so it is entering into the application by confirming that it is providing you in your response. And the next 2 bytes is P2 timing parameter. Another 2 byte is P2 start timing parameter. Whatever you have configured inside the software. So whatever the request in whichever the services you request the ECU has to respond within P2 timing parameter. If it is responding NRC with the negative, if the ECU is responding negatively with the NRC 78, then it has to take 5 second minimum as per the standard, but you will not be configuring 5 second in your project. You will be configuring according to your requirement. So this 5 second will be present in this 2 bytes of data as a response for the session control. And whenever you get the NRC 78, ECU has to respond positively within the configured time of P2 star timing parameter. If it is not doing, it is a bug. Nothing but as a developer, you didn't configure it properly as per the requirement. So the tester will be raising a bug for the same thing, and then it will come back to you and you have to rework on this configuration.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Santosh, is it clear? Hello? Hello, Santosh, is it clear? You can text in the chat window. If it's not clear, I'm not going to continue. I need response. Okay. 2 minutes, guys. Okay. So if it is clear, I'm moving on to the next service. We will come back to the NRCs, every NRCs later. So far, I want you guys to remember that we have discussed NRC 78. Then I will come back to the every NRCs once we have discussed in depth of UDS. Then I don't have to explain everything in detail. You will be only explaining to me what does it meaning. Okay. So sessions we have discussed. Okay, so the next is reset. The next service is service 11. So now we have completed one service, which is service 10. So now I'm moving to the service 11. So service 10 is for the session control and service 2 is for the reset. So it is very easy for you guys to understand. So now, as we know, UDS is all about, check validating the ECU. In practically, you
Oh,
will turn
one
on the,
doubt, actually.
yes, please.
Is it not same for all the services, the process?
What is the process? When you say process,
Like
meaning what?
you said for service 10, is it
Mhm.
not the same for all the services?
If it is same for all the services, meaning what is what is not same for all the services? I mean, I didn't get when you say is it not same for all the services? What is not same? I mean, what are you expecting to be same?
Like the P2 time
No.
and
See,
other things.
we are validating the ECU, right? The complete ECU we are validating. Correct, right? If you are doing the
Yes.
same thing, then what is the purpose of having 25 services? If every services are doing the same thing, I mean, for you, we have. Do you need 25 services for the one purpose? Every service is for the single purpose.
Yeah, different. Right, right.
Different purpose. Okay, so one purpose of one service is used for this purpose, where you have the different sessions. You already understood what is that session meaning and why are we having different types of sessions. Okay, the next is service 11. It is the name of the service 11 is reset. So meaning what? So in practically what you do, you will turn on your engine, nothing but you will turn on your car. Whenever you are turning on your car, you have a different state. Now you have just a one button to start. But before we were having off mode, accessory mode. What is accessory meaning? Your engine will not be running. You will, your engine is off, but AC, you can listen to your radio, or you can, open the door, close the door, use the wipers, open the window, close the window without even making the engine run. That is what is called accessory power mode. Okay, and then engine running mode. Engine is running but your car is not moving. That is what is start power mode. When is your car is also moving, that is what is called propulsion mode. These are the different types of power modes which are present in the car. Okay. So, of course, when are we using the UDS? Of course, not when the vehicle is moving, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So serviceman will be checking the validating the ECU when the car is in the static state. So if the serviceman wants to check one of the ECU, like like you have turned on the engine and he wants to do some of the functionality, nothing but apply the brake and release the brake. To check that applying of the brake or releasing the brake is working or not working, before that he wants to turn on the ignition or reset, or nothing but, let me put it in this way. Okay, so the first is what exactly is okay, this is the basic question. What exactly is required, like to make all ECU work or enable?
Power.
Very good. We need a battery, correct, right? So when you are turning on your engine or turning, or like let's say car, so what exactly is happening?
Take it off.
Ignition.
Yes, the battery will be supplied for the every ECU. Then that is how they will be getting, activated. Correct, right? So you want to turn on the engine. That is what you do in the car practically. But as a serviceman, if he wants to check one of the functionality whether it is working or not working, then how would he does the reset? When we say the reset, we have a different types of reset. One is hard reset. In the another word, it is called ignition. Hard reset or ignition, both are same. Okay. Another one is 03, soft reset or system reset. I will come back to the soft reset, but 01 is for the hard reset or ignition. Now you can understand ignition, correct, right? As a serviceman, how can he does, the ignition on? By using the service, because he can do only that. Without service he cannot do. He cannot simply practically turn on the car, and if he is going, that is like a driving. He is not validating the ECU. Once he wants to understand what is wrong with that, once he fixed, then he is going to turn on the car, and then he is going to test the drive. Before that, first of all, he has to fix it. Correct, right? So for that, what he will do? He will use the service 1101, which is 01 nothing but hard reset. Nothing but ignition on off. Nothing but it is a hard reset. Whenever hard reset is happening, what is exactly happening in the software? As a, like, whatever I am explaining now, as a developer, you guys are going to code. This is the request. If this is the request, ECU has to perform this and give the response. If the ECU is able to perform that action, then only ECU has to provide the response positively. If not, these are all if else, if else, if else, which you are going to code in your software. For that purpose, you should be knowing this. Okay, where were we? Huh. When you perform the ignition or hard reset, what is exactly happening inside the software? What is exactly happening inside the software is whatever was there in the memory, which is RAM memories, will be getting erased and will be ready to store with the new values. That is what is happening when you reset it. Nothing but when you turn on the car, so there will be a communication between the ECUs and everything, every memory will be stored. When you turn off the car, it will be there. When you turn on again, nothing but that is a reset. So where the memory location will be erased and it is ready to store the next cycle. When you turn on the first time, when you turn on, that is a operation cycle 1. When you turn off and then again turn on, that is a operation cycle 2. So when the operation cycle 2 memory 2 situation will be getting stored in the memories. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts? Okay, this is called a hard reset where the memory will be getting erased and it will be updated with the new values in the next operation cycle. So let's say then what is 03 meaning? When we say the soft reset, this is not the hard reset or ignition, this is the soft reset or the system. It is simple. We have already discussed how the execution of the code execute. Correct, right? The which one? The task 1 millisecond, 2 millisecond, 3 millisecond, 4 millisecond. It has to execute in a sequence. Correct, right?
Yes.
Yes. If anything wrong, nothing but the sequence mismatched. Assume. Otherwise, your ECU stuck somewhere. It could be infinite loop or it could be somewhere the return value is not provided the return value as expected. So it is stuck. It is not going to enter into the next if condition because of the return value. So that time what is wrong? So ECU stuck somewhere. So it requires a reset. So which you cannot actually you will not understand what is how exactly is what is happening inside the software once it is already deployed into the hardware. Once your software is already deployed into the hardware and where the car is already running, you cannot do anything. That is the reason we have the soft reset where it does the system reset. It is not doing the complete hard reset where the complete memory in the microcontroller is not getting erased and not getting the values in the next cycle. It is not erasing and ready to accept the next values. Here the memory will be there. The memory will not get erased. Memory will be fixed. But it does the nothing but if the control is in the 5 lakh in the like if assume the software control is in the fifth like 5 lakh line number, it will go back to the first line. That is what the reset where the system reset meaning nothing but a soft reset meaning where the execution starts from the first line, nothing but in the first task. Understood?
Yeah, understood. But I have one doubt. Okay.
Yes, please.
Suppose okay, if you reset stuck in somewhere line in code, okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you reset, okay, again it will start from first line, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it is waste of time, right? Again, it is checked from line 1 to 5,000. It takes.
It is not waste of time. It see when it is start from the one line meaning to enter into the fifth 5 lakh line number code, it takes hardly 10 millisecond or 20 millisecond, not more than that.
Okay.
Getting the point because that is what is important, right? The time. If you are learning like if you are executing some 5 lakh lines of code, how much time is going to take if you are stuck somewhere, if you are starting from the beginning? So it should not take so much of time. The execution time speed should be more. Every function will like if you are executing 1 millisecond meaning what that functionality should be completed in 1 millisecond. That is what the meaning of 1 millisecond task. If it is 1 second task meaning it should be completed within 1 second. Nothing but ECU should be providing the output within 1 second, 1 millisecond. That is what the meaning is. When we say it is taking time, it's not like 1 hour or 2 hours. No, it will be keep on repeating. When we say software, you are going to apply the brake 1,000 times in a day, or within a 1 second you may like in Bangalore traffic you will be applying the brake, small, more, little, medium. Correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that time of course everything should be in a milliseconds. Otherwise, even though you apply the brake, it will be applying the brake after some time. It's not within the milliseconds. Understood?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is what is 11, 01 and 03. Now I want you guys to tell me the request and response. Request plus first for both the subfunctions. First, Identifier, you guys can leave now. Start with the DLC.
02
Mm-hmm.
11
Mm-hmm.
01
Mm-hmm. Response. Positive response first.
03.
03. Okay, let me write down. Mm-hmm.
51
51.
Very good. Very good.
01
01. Very good. Next one. This is which one? Hard reset, right? Nothing but ignition. The next one is
Positive.
positive response.
this is what you have, positive response, but DLC is wrong. It is just a 2. 5101. That's it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next reset is what? Soft reset, right?
Software reset.
Yeah, for that, please tell me the request and response.
02
02
02.
11
11
Mm-hmm.
03
0 0 3.
3
3
Now tell me the negative response. Like negative code should be like you can say ZZ, not a problem.
02
02.
7F
Very good.
11
10.
Very good. Not 10. Here it is service.
Oh, sorry.
11
Yes. 10 11 10F.
Mm-hmm.
ZZ.
Very good. Okay. So I hope request and response and service 10 and 11 is clear. Is it clear?
Not clear.
Okay. Remember, the use of UDS is like something where your software is like, how you are coding your software in to whenever the software is executing, kind of a functions you can say. Okay, whatever the function you are trying to execute in your software when that ECU is running, everything will be done in by using the UDS to make sure that that functionality is working. That is the reason we have a different services for the different purpose. Okay. So two service I have completed. Shall I continue to the next service or do you guys need some time to digest this two services? Yes, guys, I need answer. Is it fine if I continue, if I go to the next service, or do you need time to digest, or shall we continue the next service tomorrow?
Tomorrow we will continue.
Okay. Okay, fine. Tomorrow we will see the very important services. So, no, I mean, not tomorrow. Of course, it's going to be on Monday itself. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
fine then, guys. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank
Please
you.
do let me know if you guys have any
Bye.
questions. If please do let me know if you guys have any questions on anything. It need not to be on the CAN or need not to be on the UDS or like the testing side, process side, development side. If you guys have any doubts, please do ask me. I will clear in when the classes are going on itself. Okay, if you are not asking, then you would be in the if you don't get, then of course you cannot resolve anything. Okay, please try to get to know, then it will be useful when you actually started working. Anyone already joined the company?
No.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
some people joined.
Mm-hmm. Okay, fine then. Okay, if you guys have any doubts, you can ask. If not, we will end up the class. Okay, then fine. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.